What's going on, guys? Shane here with Coach Adam Lerner. I'm here at his gym, A4 Fitness in West LA. He's the coach of Terrion Ware, of Vince the Anomaly, and today we're going to talk about lifting weights for fighters. That's my first question for you. That's probably the number one, or at least top 5 questions that I get. Should fighters lift weights? Yes or no?
Maybe.
Okay, yeah, I figured. That's why we're filming this video. So let's talk a little bit. I know you want to talk about body types. I know you want to talk about when they should stop lifting weights, if they got a fight coming up, healing, recovery, that kind of thing.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit about body types.
Okay. So first off, every fighter should have a strength and conditioning program.
Okay.
All right. So some maybe should be lifting heavy weights, maybe some shouldn't, but every fighter should have a strength and conditioning program, something other than just their wrestling practice, their jiu-jitsu practice, and their striking practice. Okay. Something. They should be doing something. Okay. But
Yeah.
if it's a really muscular guy, he's naturally muscular, naturally strong, and has no flexibility, he should not be doing the same strength and conditioning program that somebody who's long and lean and super flexible and can't gain muscle or strength very quickly.
Right.
Okay, they should be on a completely different program.
Okay. Okay. So how would you split up the amount of training that you're doing on your striking, your wrestling, your jiu-jitsu, your fight training as compared to your weightlifting and conditioning?
Okay. Well, you're not doing a powerlifting competition.
Right.
And you're not doing an Olympic lifting competition. So the amount of deadlifts or power cleans or things like that you should pale in comparison to how much time you spend trying to choke somebody or punch somebody. Okay? So most of your time spent should be in an MMA gym, a boxing gym, a jiu-jitsu studio, whatever. That's where you should spend the majority of your time. Okay? You need to improve on your skills and your conditioning specifically related to those skills, much more so than you need to be able to do a 300-pound power clean.
Right. So with what you do with your fighters, how would you get them ready for, like, at what point do they do their strength and conditioning? Is there specific days that you have them do it? Is it after fight training? Is it 10? I know, like, Firas Zahabi says, like, 5 to 10 minutes, maybe one exercise, but they don't want their guys being sore because they don't want it to affect their training the next day. So what are your beliefs?
I mean, there's not a whole lot of science behind the idea of training for 5 minutes on a strength exercise or whatever. And there's also not a lot of science on you shouldn't be sore before you go into your striking training or your grappling or whatever else. Now, if you're talking about the last week of a fight, or, there's variations and variables in all of these things. Early in a camp is when you should do the majority of your heavy lifting and strength work.
Right.
You don't want to carry soreness into your fight. You don't want to carry huge muscles and muscles that are storing a whole bunch of glycogen unnecessarily into your fight. You need to be quick, you need to be coordinated, you need to be mobile, you need to be able to move around that ring or around that cage really well and really fast. And the last thing you need is to be carrying huge muscles that demand more oxygen and make you tired and slow.
That answered my next question. What is glycogen? Define how that's...
So glycogen is muscle energy. Okay. But everything in your body adapts very specifically to the type of movements or the type of activities that you're doing. So if I'm lifting really, really heavy weights a certain way, then I'm storing glycogen at a certain amount and for a certain purpose. Okay? To lift weights. Now, if I store glycogen so much that I'm carrying around all this extra muscle energy that will allow me to do 10 squats at 275 pounds, then I'm going to be storing maybe too much glycogen and maybe an unnecessary type of function for that fight that I have coming up.
Okay.
So I don't want to be training to get stronger and stronger and stronger up to the day of the fight.
Right.
Because in strength training, you have a breakdown and then an over-reparation process that actually builds you up. So in the same way that when you break a bone, this finger is a little bigger than this one because I broke this one, right? And it over-calcifies and overbuilds to prevent the same thing from happening again, to prevent it from breaking again. Okay, your muscles kind of do the same thing. You break that muscle tissue down by stressing it, by loading it, and then the over-reparation of that damaged tissue is actually what makes a muscle larger. Okay.
So you talked about specific body types. The tall, lean guy is going to be doing something different than what the short, naturally muscular guy is. Let's talk specifics on what kind of regimen you would have them do and why they would be different.
So the main difference would be sort of in that early phase of the camp. Okay. So for somebody who's really strong and really muscular, I might only have them do a full strength and conditioning routine that includes like lifting weights, pistol squats, joint stability exercises, maybe only once a week, twice a week at the most. Whereas somebody who's really long and lean and flexible, like Terrion for instance, I'm gonna have him strength train a little bit more and a little bit heavier early in the camp, and probably for a little bit longer in the camp to make sure that he goes into each fight stable and strong and powerful, because some of that natural flexibility and mobility and movement that he has is still gonna be there.
How about specific types of fighters? So like, does this all still pertain to boxers as much as it does MMA fighters? Because I know that the number one argument that people are going to say in the comments is Muhammad Ali said he never touched a weight. There's no footage of Mike Tyson lifting weights, although there's a lot of footage of him resistance training. I mean, even hitting heavy bag is resistance training.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
what was Muhammad Ali doing and why?
Yeah.
Okay, so all of these guys did some sort of strength training. Okay, so there are a lot of people who aren't super educated on strength and conditioning that will say, oh, that guy never lifted weights, but he was the heavyweight champion of the world. Okay, but did he ever do a push-up? Did he ever do a squat? Or did he ever stand in a really low stance because his coach told him to make his legs stronger?
Right.
Did he ever do a sit-up? Maybe he wasn't doing 1,000 sit-ups a day, but maybe he was just crunching a little bit and his coach was slamming a pad or a medicine ball into his stomach. Well, when he contracts his stomach and that ball hits his stomach, that heavy contraction causes muscle tissue breakdown, which causes over-reparation, which is the same thing as lifting a weight. Okay? So all of these guys strength trained. They just strength trained in one way or another that was very specific to the activity that they were doing. So if the argument is you should never do anything that makes your muscles stronger or has any resistance, that's silly. But if your argument is that you should train as specifically as you can for your fight, then you're making a good argument.
I agree with that. I like that. Any other points that you'd like to add on before we finish up here? Because I know we have a second video coming out. You guys are definitely going to enjoy that. It's specific exercises for joint stability. Maybe just brush on that and why that's important for fighters.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, really you have two components that make a power punch or that make you powerful in the ring or in the cage. One is stability and one is power or acceleration. Okay? So if I'm hitting something, the faster I'm traveling or the faster that component, that limb is traveling towards you, and the more solid it is when it hits you, the more force I'm creating,
right.
The more impact I'm creating, and the more damage I'm doing. Okay? So I want my muscles to be able to create a lot of force, which means I need to be doing some power movements, some plyometric movements. And if you want to argue, oh, you shouldn't be jumping around before the fight, a punch is a plyometric movement. Right? And a jump is the initiator of the rotation of your hips into a punch. Right? Okay, so you need power movements to create acceleration. You need acceleration to create heavy impact or force.
Right.
And you need stable joints for that force to be transferred through the target and not just taken back to the person who's throwing the punch.
Awesome. All right, guys. I know you have questions. I know you have comments. Leave them down below. We want to hear what you guys have to say. Adam's going to be in the comments as well. But check back in a week because we're going to be sharing another video on what he's talking about here with stabilization. Check out Adam, links in the description below for his Instagram, for the gym that we're sitting in right now. If you're in West LA, come check it out. Come get some strength and conditioning, some boxing. What else you got here? You guys do everything.
Muay Thai.
Jiu-Jitsu. They
MMA.
do it all. They do it all. They do it all.
Rehab.
There you go. Do you believe in like prehab too? Of course.
Yes,
right? Like,
I mean that's what we're talking about with joint stability is
right.
prehab. Yeah.
Which is like
what it is.
Avoiding having to go to rehab, right?
Make yourself so strong that you can't get hurt.
There you go, invincible. Armor. All right, guys, check it out. Links in the description below. But until then, subscribe to get the fight tips before your opponent does. I'm Shane, and this is Adam Lerner. Fight tips for the underdogs.